Hi everyone, welcome to part 4 of puppet building Agoro style. In this video we'll be building the arms. This tutorial will move quickly, so get used to pausing and rewinding from time to time. And to help the process move along just a little bit smoother, I've provided some documentation. You can see it here on screen or via a link below, or through the official website www.agorothephobicmonster.com. At this point you should have 2 inside-out hands and 2 inside-out arms. First, we need to pop them around to the right way. To help you along, you'll need a thin, blunt object to push through the fingers and the arm tubes. Here I'm using the bottom of a pen. Now we'll build the internal armatures for each hand. You've already cut out the palm sections, now we need to make the fingers. I use tie wire. For more information on this material, check the on-screen link or check the link in the description labelled supply list. The wire is sturdy, flexible and does the trick. You'll need 8 lengths of wire, 1 for each finger. Simply bend the wire over on itself to create the armature finger. Next we need to cut the wire to length. For exact measurements you can follow the on-screen link or check the link in the description below labelled Agoro style hand armature. Ultimately the aim here is to have the finger length match the length of the hands we've just sewn, while leaving a few centimeters spare to insert into the foam palm. Once you have the wire to the correct length, strip the excess rubber from the section that you'll be inserting into the foam palm. Next, dab a drop of super glue on the point where you're going to insert the fingers, and insert the fingers. As the wire moves into the foam, it will pull the glue with it. Continue with each finger until your armature is complete. It should look something like this. Now, insert the armature into the hand. It'll take a little bit of fussing, but thanks to the gap that you left while sewing the hand, the armature should slide in there nicely. If you'd like, you can stop there. But we're going to do this Agoro style, so what we need to do is add a little bit of bulk to the fingers and the back of the palm. Grab some polyfill and insert small pieces into the fingers using a thin, blunt object to push it all the way in. Make sure that you fill the bottom side and the top side of each finger to fully cover the armature wire within. Keep doing so until the fingers feel rounded and soft enough for the wire to bend without restriction. Now stuff some polyfill into the back of the palm to round it out slightly. And finally, leave the palm flat. This will help the puppet grip objects more naturally. With the internal elements complete, you can now sew the seam between the base of the little finger and the wrist. By now you should end up with something like this, a very soft, yet durable hand with fingers that bend and pose freely. With the hands done, it's now time to sew them to the wrist. Just make sure that the grain of the fabric is pointing in the right direction toward the wrist. You should end up with something like this. Now we fill the arm. The aim here is to fill the arm up to the halfway point where we're going to tie a knot to create the elbow, after which we'll fill the rest with stuffing. And so we fill the forearm until it's firm yet soft. And then we sew the knot. And finally we fill the rest. Until it looks something like this. Next up, we need to create guide holes for the arm rods, which are essential for manipulating the arms. But when doing it Agoro style, we use the cap from a blind rivet. To remove the cap from the rivet, pinch it with pliers, then hammer the end of the rivet on a rock, This will push the rivet out and leave the cap behind. We then look for the base of the palm just above the wrist and use a leather hole punch to create a hole. I normally use a scalpel to slightly widen the hole as well. Then insert the rivet cap into the hole. The tight fit should keep it in place, leaving you with something like this, a discreet, clean hole for inserting an arm rod. Now the arms look built, but there's still another crucial step, the arm joints. The arm joints that I use are of my own design. I wasn't happy sewing the arms in place because they tend to make the arms look unnatural when resting beside the body, and if you raise the arms above the puppet's head, the shoulder would tend to twist unnaturally while restricting the movement of the arm. So through trial and error, I developed a joint that swivels 360 degrees while leaving a flat surface on the inside of the puppet, thereby making it comfortable for the performer. The design is pretty simple, but it has lots of pieces from lots of different places. For that reason, I'll be making these joints available for purchase from the official Agoro online store. There's a link on screen now and a link below, so now you have a choice, buy them or build them. What we first need to do is glue the first two joint bases together with the nut freely moving inside in order to create a little spherical pod. The nut must move freely inside, so once you've glued the pod pieces together, give the pod a shake. If it rattles, you know you did it right. Next, let's look at the joint once fully assembled, just so you can get a feel of how the internal mechanics operate. This will be a lot of information at once, but don't worry, we'll get to each step when it becomes appropriate. And so, beside the pod sits the bearing. The pod and the bearing will be built into the arm. Next is the washer that acts as a buffer between the arm and the body, while clamping onto the inside of the bearing, thereby allowing the outside edge of the bearing to rotate freely. And finally, there's a third joint base and a bolt, which runs from inside the body, through the washer and bearing, and into the pod where it's screwed into the nut. When all said and done, the joint should look something like this. Now let's insert the joint. As this video is for the arms, we're only going to insert the arm component of the joint, a joint which I call the puppet swivel joint. First, get your pod and insert it into the arm like so. Now, cut a 2cm line down the shoulder. This is going to help you better insert and secure the bearing. Before attaching the bearing, we need to coat the outer edge with contact adhesive. For more info on this item, check the on-screen link or check the link in the description below labelled supply list. And this is very important. When using contact adhesive, use gloves, a mask, and make sure you've got good ventilation. That stuff is pretty noxious. And now moving on. Get a piece of off-cut foam and use it as a brush to dab the contact adhesive along the outer edge of the bearing, making sure to only coat the outer edge. If adhesive gets onto the bearing, the joint won't swivel. Next, place the bearing flush with the opening to the shoulder and pinch the fabric around it, giving the adhesive time to dry. Your arm should now look something like this, and of course the pod should be moving freely beneath the bearing. And with that said, your arms are finished. Congratulations, you're now 2/3 of the way to making this guy, or a variation of him. I'm Chris, and this has been part 4 of Puppet Building Agoro's Style. To keep following and to discover more content as it's uploaded, please subscribe to our channel, or give us a like, or hit that notification icon. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, I'd love it if you'd give us a like. As I mentioned, the arm joint I demonstrated in this video will be available to buy pre-made from the online store. Check the link on the screen or in the description below. Next up is part 5, legs.